Okay. Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here to attend this round table. As you know, we're going to talk today about electrifying urban mobility. So let me introduce myself. My name is Arturo Pérez de Lucia. I'm Managing Director of the Spanish cluster for the boosting and development of the electric vehicle market. And today we have with us four experts in this panel. They will talk about different concepts of the electric mobility related to the smart cities. So we have run out of time, so we rapidly are going to introduce the first speaker, who is Ramón Pruneda, Head of Energy and Mobility Projects in the Strategic Sectors Department in Barcelona City Council. So the room is yours, Ramón, whenever you want. Yeah.
Okay, good morning to everybody. Thanks to attend this presentation. I'm very ambitious and I prepared my presentation for 20 minutes, but I know just now that we have only 12 minutes, so I will try to explain you a little bit quickly and maybe I will pass some slides. So Arturo said I will present the electric vehicle implementation strategy in Barcelona. And first of all, I want to introduce some facts and some topics that we think that we need to take in consideration. So probably this concept everybody knows that the mobility sector are living a real revolution. We identified that this sector is living this revolution basically for three facts or three topics. The first one is for the introduction of the ICT technologies, the smart mobility, okay. The second one is for the new energies, not only for propulsion, if not also for new materials. And the last one, the third one, is because of the citizens and the final users are changing their mindsets. As you know, they want more services and they don't want products. So, okay, let me to introduce this because it helped me to introduce or to make a framework about my presentation. I don't know if you recognize this picture. This is the roof of the Sagrada Familia. This is an important building in Barcelona, probably you know. And what we want to say with this, I want to say that Barcelonians people in Catalonia, in Barcelona, the citizens are crazy, are creative, and are groundbreaking innovators. So following this target or following this portfolio, what we must to do around sustainable mobility. So the answer is that we must to do or to be crazy, creative, and groundbreaking innovators. And this is an example. This is a real picture in Barcelona. This is a Twitter from one of my colleagues. And the message in Spanish said, this is not a showcase, this is not a pilot project. Do you feel or do you know that something is changing? And really, yes, really something is changing, okay? We come from the past, from an expectative market that it was different from the evolution of the real market. You can see in these lines of this graph. And at the same time, we think that there are some topics or there are some facts that we already acknowledge or we already acknowledge, okay? So we don't need, or in some congress maybe yes, or for some attendees like citizens yes, but in professional congress like this, we don't need to discuss about environmental benefits because everybody knows that this sector has environmental benefits or that exist already an OEM portfolio developed, etc. So there are some topics that are already discussed, but there are some others that we need to continue discussing, like for instance the mass introduction of electric vehicles in the public transport or the new innovative policies in the cities, etc., etc. Okay, and now I will tell you a little bit about one tool of the city or one of the strategic plans in the city. As you probably can guess, a city of Barcelona have different strategic plans or strategic projects like the Smart City Initiative or other clusters, etc., etc. But there are one of them that is the public-private partnership, the PPP, LIFE. LIFE is a public-private initiative. You can see here the main goals or the main definitions of this platform. So it's centered in Barcelona and Catalonia region. It's to promote sustainable mobility, more focused in electromobility and CNG mobility. This is an open platform, and you can see in this picture the different entities, public and private entities, that are working in this platform. We have two levels of participation: the executive level, that is these companies of here and public entities, and the collaborative level. I don't explain each one, but I can say to you that we are covering all the value chain of the sustainable mobility. We have involved OEMs, we have involved utilities, we have involved engineers, and of course, public administrations. We have different action lines, and in this presentation, I will explain you these two strategic lines, the communication and public policies lines. So about communication, we think that is very important to disseminate. So we have a website where we are disseminating what is the initiative, what is the incentives, or what is the policies in Barcelona and in Catalonia. We talk in this website about also the state of the art of the technology, and we are answering also questions from citizens and from private sector. We also have a newsletter. We think that is important because through this newsletter we are disseminating what is the news at local level but also at the international level, so our followers are very well informed. And we are also very active in a Twitter social network. We have more than 1,300 followers. I invite you, I take advantage of this presentation, and I invite you to follow us. This is our address, Leaf Project BCN. Sorry. Okay, and about the public policies, one of the main activity that we develop in Leaf platform is the Public Administration Committee or Commission. As you can see here, all the different, and I think that is very important, all the different public administration levels, from local level like Barcelona City Council, or metropolitan level like the Authority of Barcelona Metropolitan, or a regional or country level like the Catalonia government, we are working together in this committee. It's very important because one of the goals of this committee is coordinate and give support to the different public plans of these different public administrations level. Okay, because in the past, the Barcelona City Council has their own public strategy about mobility, or public plan about mobility, sustainable mobility. A metropolitan area has their own public plan also, but they are disconnected. No? And through this committee, we try to make synergies and to coordinate all of this. I summarize here also the main policies that we have already implemented about electric vehicles or electric mobility in the city of Barcelona. So you can see that there have a 75% reduction in the annual road tax. The regulated tariff to park in the parking places on a street is regulated by a tariff. For electric vehicles is for free, the cost is zero. Other, for instance, is the reduction of the highway tolls, or the possibility to drive through the high occupancy lane or the carpooling lane. If you are driving alone with your electric vehicle, you can drive through these lanes, if I say to you, if you are driving with an electric vehicle. There are other important, that is the grant or the subsidize for the purchase of electric vehicle. This initiative comes from the Spanish government, so it's for all the Spanish country, but it's also an important one. Okay, and I have 4 minutes, and to finish, I will show you, or I will explain you the main or the last or the newest electric vehicle projects and initiative that we developed in Barcelona during this year, 2014, and during the last year, 2013. First of all, about the deployment of the electric vehicle charge infrastructure. We are the region in Spain with the biggest or the most important offer of charge infrastructure, as I said, in Spain. So as you can see here, we have more than 200 electric vehicle stations. This is a station, there is not point because each station has two shocks or 2 points to connect. So really, we have more than 400 electric charge points, okay? And we implemented also during this year a fast charge network. This is one of the most important fast charge network in Europe. You can see here, if you plus the Chademo and the Meneques and Combo, this is two standards, we have more than 25 fast charge stations in Barcelona and in the metropolitan area. And we have also more than 15 semi-fast charge stations with Meneques in Barcelona and the metropolitan area also. You can see in this picture some examples of these fast charge stations. This is an important project because these fast charge stations has included the three charge standards, the Combo, Meneques and Chademo standard in the same station. And this is also an important project because we developed these stations with the agreement and with the collaboration of the OEMs. So in this project, Nissan collaborate for Chademo standard, Renault collaborate for Meneques, and BMW collaborate for CCS or for Combo standard. You can see that we have two different technologies, two different kinds of fast charge stations. All of these different kind of technologies are interoperable between them with the same ID user card. We have also deployed charge stations exclusive or focused for electric motorbikes. So in this case, these stations are also interoperable with the same ID card with the rest of the network, of the charge network. And to the end, also, we have public charge stations in underground parking operators. Okay, so as you can see in this slide, in these different pictures, we created a different network of charge technologies and charge stations. About electrification of public transport, it's very important for us, this issue, this topic. We are working with TMB, with Metropolitan Transport of Barcelona, that they have the most, or the cleanest, fleet in Europe of bus, recognized by the European Commission. And we have more than 130 hybrid buses, and we have 3 pure electric buses. One of them is from BYD, and the other 2 is this picture that you can see here is from ZEUS project. This is a European project. This is a pure electric bus of 12 meters, and during January of the next year, in 2015, we will introduce 2 pure electric buses of 18 meters, articulated bus from Solaris firm. So we want to be also one of the cities with a pure electric bus network most important in Europe. We are working also with a taxi fleet. We have at the moment these 2 brands, Nissan pure electric van that it's manufactured in the Nissan manufacturing plant in Barcelona, the NB200 electric van, and the BYD car also implemented in the taxi fleet in Barcelona. We have now, today, more than 25 pure electric taxis in the city, and we foresee to increase during the next month. Okay, and I have only 20 seconds. I will show you very quickly this picture. We think that dissemination activities through the citizens is very important. This is the Expo Electric. It's an activity that we do in the city center with a test and drive, etc. The support to students and universities, the support to new business models that, like the delivery goods or freight vehicles, the municipality services like the rubbish collection. This is a plug-in hybrid truck, or the sharing systems like this of electric scooters. I am out of time. Different European projects. And to the end, this is my latest slide. Some facts and figures. You can read here. We are the first world city in terms of public fast charge network per square kilometer in Europe, in the world, sorry. The 3rd European city with more taxis, 26, as I said to you. The 7th one in terms of electric vehicle per inhabitant. The 5th world city with an electric scooter open sharing system. And the European city with the cleanest bus fleet. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay, thank you, Ramón, for your presentation. I think it's been awesome to discover all the good job done in Barcelona. I think this city is a flagship, an e-mobility flagship in Spain. So the second panelist here to come is David Beeton. He is an expert in strategies and policies to promote a widespread adoption of ultra-low emission vehicles and the development of smart cities. So the room is yours whenever you want.
Thanks, Arturo. Barcelona is indeed one of the world's leading cities for electric mobility. So I think the presentation that I'm going to give today couldn't be in a more appropriate place. Not only is Ramón and Barcelona one of our most important partners in the work that we do, but I think the Smart City World Expo is very much a festival of big ideas. And we're really here today to talk about these big ideas and how they apply to electric mobility and how they're shaping the future of electric mobility around the world. So the starting point for us was back in 2012. We produced something called the EV City Casebook. We produced this effectively for energy ministers. It was generated for a high-level meeting in London where we thrust this publication into the hands of energy ministers from around the world to show them the exciting, transformative things that were happening in pioneering electric vehicle cities around the world. It was kind of a Lonely Planet guide to electric vehicles in cities. Now, one of the things that we did was we put the year 2012 in big numbers on the front page on the front cover of the casebook. And on the back of that, there was the assumption that this would become an annual report, that something we would do again. And that really wasn't the case, but nevertheless, there was a lot of media interest, a lot of interest from policymakers and industries that we would revisit that. And this is what I'm here today to talk about. So we reflected on what we'd learned from the first casebook. And the first thing was learning that electric mobility really is a global phenomenon, that cities right around the world are working on this today. And they have common motivations, they have common challenges, which they see electric mobility as the answer to. The second is that for cities to prepare for widespread adoption of electric mobility is an extremely complex and challenging task. This is by no means a blueprint. This is, in fact, about 5 years out of date, but it starts to unpack some of the difficult technologies, policies, and challenges that cities are trying to implement to create mass markets for electric vehicles. And the third was to really reflect on how today is different from where we were back in 2012. And 2012 was probably a line in the sand. It was kind of the end of the pilot phase of electric mobility. Where we find ourselves today in 2014 is we're no longer proving that electric vehicles are suitable for cities. That's been done. The markets are showing us that electric vehicles today meet people's needs. But we're still not in a phase of fully commercial markets. We're still in a phase where cities and governments are still having to support the commercialization of electric vehicle technologies. So we decided to look at that in more detail. And this is absolutely textbook. When you look at what happens when you introduce a new technology to the market, you understand that you have a chasm to cross. And what this explains to us is that the early market adopters of a technology have fundamentally different needs and motivations and requirements to the mass market. And this is where the notion of crossing the chasm comes in. The challenge that we face as strategists, as policymakers, as industrialists is working out exactly how it is that we can move from where we are today to that point in the future. And for us, this comes down to big ideas. Big ideas are transformative policies, business models, outreach, education, engagement strategies, and of course, new innovative technologies. So we started out with a call for submissions to the new casebook, which we launched in Okinawa in February this year. We received over 150 nominations from 6 different continents around the world, which were evaluated by an international group of representatives from over 20 different national governments in Copenhagen earlier this year. And we first announced the 50 big ideas in Tokyo, and we handed over the publication to our sponsors in Vancouver just 2 weeks ago. And of course, in a 10-minute presentation, I don't have time to go through all 50 big ideas, but I think 2 of the things that I want to point out about this that I think are particularly significant. The first, as I said earlier, is that this is a truly global phenomenon. And what we learned is that no one city is doing everything that needs to be done to create this wide mass market for electric vehicles, but good things are happening in many cities around the world. And the second is that there are at least 50 big ideas in electric mobility. In fact, I would posit that there's a lot more than this. And I think that challenged a few initial conceptions of how complex or difficult it is to advance electric vehicles. For many people, they see electric mobility as about public charging points, about procurement incentives, and not much more than that. And I think the EV City Casebook starts to unpack some of that complexity. And we didn't set out to critically analyse the big ideas, but what we did try to do is start the conversation about the particular contribution of these different big ideas to the benefits that will ultimately unlock widespread adoption of electric vehicles and help make cities smarter as a result of that. And I'll use these 6 different areas to really point out some of the examples of big ideas that we feature in the casebook. So each big idea, importantly, isn't about projects. We use projects to illustrate something that we think is significant and game-changing in the field of electromobility. So the first big idea in the casebook is ultra-low emission zones. The significance of this is that we see that it changes the narrative, the discussion about the range of a vehicle from being about where you can go, how far you can go to where you can go. So a situation where fossil fuel vehicles are banned from or charged for going into city centres means that people will buy vehicles for the journeys that they make most often rather than for any perceived need that they have around range. And we use London's ambitions to have the world's first big city ultra-low emission zone in place by 2020 as an example of how this is happening. And we have an outlook for how we see this developing in the future, pointing out that with over 200 low emission zones in Europe today, either in existence or planned, and places like Tokyo already having low emission zones in practice, that many more cities will adopt these policies and that existing zones will adopt more stringent emissions controls in the future. We also, a big theme that features throughout the casebook is the potential for electric mobility to join the dots between different urban infrastructure systems. As we know, cities are made up of silos. Indeed, transport is a silo within a silo with multiple different modes of transport and technologies and infrastructures for transport existing in splendid isolation. But electric vehicles provide a means to join the dots between those different silos, to bring it all together. And the HARMO project in Japan we cite as an example where they're using journey planning, they're using real-time data on the state of charge of batteries to forecast energy demand, and leading to a more intelligent operation of city systems. We look at the vehicle technologies itself and particularly point out the BMW lightweighting technologies, which significantly transform both the range of an electric vehicle. It means that you can travel further with an existing electric vehicle battery, but also reduce the cost of an electric vehicle, meaning that to achieve the range that electric vehicles have today, you can do that with a much smaller battery. And this has happened with the i3 and the i3 model that you can buy today. Another big theme is issues around education and awareness of electric vehicles. And to many, this is as simple as giving people more information about electric vehicles. But the problem as we see it is not that people are illiterate when they come to electric vehicles. It's not that they don't have any understanding of electric vehicles, but rather the problem is that they have different understandings. And this skepticism, this bias, these misconceptions are often more difficult to challenge and to change than simply having people with no information at all. And we see that what's required here is sort of big showcase projects such as the world's first all-electric motor racing series, Formula E, that fundamentally challenge these misconceptions and show that electric vehicles are a desirable and practical fit with people's lifestyles today. I won't talk about managed charging too much because I know we've got an excellent presentation coming up, but we look at how electric vehicles will both be advanced by resilient and robust energy grids, but also that electric vehicles have the potential to make energy grids smarter and more efficient and economic to operate in the future. And the final profile that we feature in the casebook is on air quality. And we didn't set out to rank the big ideas, we didn't set out to say what was most important, but we do single this out as one of the most significant things that we see happening in the future of electric mobility. And that's recognizing that many policies to date have been based on climate change or energy security or economic development, but the growing awareness and understanding of the human health consequences of vehicle emissions in cities today, the improved technologies for measuring these emissions in cities today, and the understanding of how widespread these problems are is leading to policymakers in cities to prioritize low emission transport as a way of immediately addressing these problems. And you don't have the same psychological distance with air quality as you do with something like climate change. So people are understanding that the air that they breathe is carcinogenic. And when something's carcinogenic, it only takes one molecule to cause a cancer. And we see this as being a big policy driver for the future of electric vehicles. So to conclude with three final thoughts. The first is to recognize that big ideas are both creating and shaping the future of electric mobility. That this is not just about one big idea, this is about a package of big ideas that are happening in cities right around the world. The second is to focus on why we're doing this and what we need these interventions, these projects to achieve. And this is about creating a mass market for electric vehicles. It's about connecting with not the needs of the early adopters, but the mainstream market adopters, using policies, business models, outreach, education, and of course, new technology to engage with those requirements. And of course, it comes down to recognizing that electric vehicles offer the opportunity to make cities more sustainable and smarter, more intelligently responsive to future green lifestyles. So the EV City Casebook will be available to download very, very soon, at the start of next week. If you go to this website today, you can register and you'll be notified as soon as it's available and you'll receive a copy. We're also looking for members of the press that might be interested in perhaps having an advanced copy of the casebook and doing some articles, so please spread the word if anyone would be interested in doing that. And if you'd like to talk to me further or contact me about our work, please do so. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Beeton. I think it's a great presentation. Come to the for your speech, and I'm pretty sure, considering the evolution of this market, that we will be able to provide you with 50 more additional good ideas for the next year. So, our next speaker is Heike Barlag. She is in charge of Siemens activities in funded projects around electric mobility, and the room is yours whenever you want.
Thank you, Arturo. Actually, I'm not only responsible for the Siemens activities in this field, but I'm coordinator of the Green Emotion project. Green Emotion is funded by the European Commission with 24 million euros for a duration of 4 years. So what does it mean? It's a quite big project, obviously. And we work in all fields in the electromobility, from prototypes, ICT, grid integration, but also standards and policies and recommendations to the cities how to pave the way for electromobility in the reality. So my first question to you is, who is working for a municipality or as a consultant for a municipality? Can you raise your hand? No? No, okay, sorry. But, actually, I wanted to focus only on one aspect of the project today, and that's what the cities can do to enable the uptake of charging infrastructure with minimized costs for themselves, obviously. Because we all know the cities, they want to support electromobility, but they don't have a lot of budget for that. Anyway, so let's go forward. So for the user acceptance, there are several aspects important, but we all know there's the issue of range anxiety. So for the user, it's important to have the feeling that he can charge everywhere. Otherwise, he will not use his EV if he's always frightened, oh, will I come back to my home charger? And how can we enable that? To do that, Green Emotion has joined forces with 42 partners, because we must say in most fields it's not a sophisticated technology that is missing here, but it's an agreement about all the stakeholders how to do it, to find a common solution. And that's the reason why we put together the industries that will develop the charging infrastructure or the ICT infrastructure. With the utilities, they have to integrate the charging infrastructure, also the home charging infrastructure, into their grids. We have the electric vehicle manufacturers, obviously important in this field, and we have the municipalities. The municipalities are the key drivers of electromobility, and we will see why. And then for some of the more technical issues, we also have research institutions and EV technologies institutions in the project. By the way, the project has already started 3.5 years ago and will end by February of next year, and I will also announce the final conference with the final results to come in my presentation. So let's go back to the cities. What is the motivation of cities to set up electromobility? First, when you can hear that everywhere in the talks here, cities have problems with all these parked cars. They block all the space, so they want to get rid of cars. They want to reduce the congestion in the traffic infrastructure, and they want to reduce air pollution and noise. And last but not least, they also have to fulfill the residents' mobility demands. So they cannot only shut down the mobility. So the first issue that is widely discussed in this conference, I think, is how to motivate people to use more public transport. That will solve most of these problems. But also we all know that a lot of people will not want to use individual transport anymore. So they insist on having a possibility for individual transport. And how that can be done is the best way, do it electric. So don't use a combustion engine, but use an electric car. And if you also want to get rid of most of the cars parking in the city, you should motivate the people to use the e-car sharing. Yeah? Because that will solve more problems by also making the people living in the city happy. That's the way how we should do it. And then there are a lot of questions regarding these strategies, how to implement them. But as I said, one of the more important is how to set up charging infrastructure and how to finance that. So the first question is, where will people charge their EV? And if you have a closer look in statistics, for example, then first you will see that the EV drivers will charge at home when possible. So there are a lot of people, especially the first adopters, that have a possibility to install home chargers, and they will do that, and they will use 90% of the time those home chargers. People will only have a real need for public charging if they have no option to install a home charger. So it's more a question of residents in cities that don't have a garage or a private parking place, or if they drive longer distances so that they cannot go back home to charge. And there are nice travel studies with normal combustion engine cars where we can see what are the trip distances, how often do people travel to where. And from that, you can make decisions where the people need charging infrastructure, but you also have to be careful that people sometimes only want to see charging infrastructure to feel that they could use it if they need it. So it's not only a need, but it's also the feeling that need to be satisfied here. Within Green Emotion, we have the biggest dynamic data collection, I think, at the moment in Europe. We collect dynamic data from 1,500 chargers and more than 500 EVs to find out what the people really need and what they really use. But there's one obstacle also in our data collection because of the privacy of such data and the availability of EVs at the moment in Europe. We are focused more on company fleets. So this data has to be seen in the right light. If we concentrate on the chargers and the usage of chargers, what we see here that within this Green Emotion company fleet focused experiment or demonstration, only 10% of the chargers were installed in a household. But then if we see the usage, it's more than 34% of the usages we see are in the household. So there's only a small number because of this type of experiment, and the people love to use a home charger. So that's a message. And then we have, in the company fleets, obviously a lot of office parking opportunities. So 25% of the chargers are installed in office for office parking, and they have almost 40% of the users. On the contrary, in the public access area, we have 60% of the installed chargers, but only 26% of the users. So the public charging infrastructure is not very well used. So we have to be careful where to install that and how to finance that, yeah? Because it can cost us a lot of money if we say, okay, we need a public charger every 1 kilometer or something like that. Yeah, that's not the way. We have to do it in a clever way. And how do we do that? I recommend strongly the cities to make a plan. I have a feedback from project partners that they asked for licenses, for example, for e-car sharing systems in the cities, and they were refused because the city said, oh, sorry, I have no dedicated plan, I am not responsible, I don't know who's responsible. So the first point is that The cities need to bring together the departments that are necessary to give the permissions and so on, and to have a clear plan what they want to achieve. And the first question is the target group. Whom do you want to enable to use an e-car? Is it the commuters going into the city? And do you want them really to go into the city, or do you want them to go to park and ride stations? Yeah? Then you should install the chargers there and not in the city center. Do you want to enable citizens of your city to have their own EV? Yeah? If they don't have an option for a home charger, they will need a street side parking option, for example, and you need to install that. Or do you want to support the e-car sharing? Then you have to make a plan how many e-car sharing you want to have, and you have to give out the licenses. And also you will have to clarify that you make a reservation of parking place for these EVs. Yeah? Because if an e-car sharing company comes to you and asks for permission, they also will need permission to park their cars. Yeah? So that's rather important. And if you have then decided what the target groups are, you can check what are the travel purposes, and then you have to select the charging services. And as I said, the charging services is something like, do I need chargers at the end train station for the commuters? Or do I need in a parking lot in the city center public chargers with public access? Or do I need an e-car sharing system? Yeah? So you can select the charging service based on your target groups and what they need. And then there are several barriers and actions that's then more or less easy to derive if you have decided on that. And Green Emotion is working on a kind of catalog, on a report, on possible barriers and actions, and also on implementation measures. But you can only use that if you have a plan what you want to do. Yeah? This is not like cooking. Yeah? We cannot say do this and do that. Yeah? We can only say if you do this, then you will support that. And you have to know what it is you want. So, and then in the end, you can also, if you have decided on all these things, you can think about clever business models. For example, if you have an e-car sharing company asking for licenses in your city, you can oblige them to have a part of their charging infrastructure also with public access. Yeah? That will not cost big money. You will give them permissions to use parking place and to set up their system. And then in return, you will have public charging infrastructure. Okay, let's go back a little bit more to Green Emotion. I want to give an outlook, what else we are doing. This is a big picture, and you see a city is not an island. It has to be connected, and also the charging infrastructure is something that has to be integrated into the European grid, and it's something that has to be ICT connected so that people from everywhere can use chargers everywhere. Yeah, we don't want to have a system where only Barcelona citizens can use the Barcelona chargers. Yeah, also a guy from Rome driving through Europe should be able to charge everywhere. So this is quite confusing slide with a lot of demonstrations we do in Green Emotion. But what we really have done, for example, is setting up an ICT system. You have these backend systems that control the chargers locally, yeah, for one company, yeah, like Endesa, Barcelona, for example. And we have set up an overarching system that connects all these systems, and that sounds very easy, but it is not, because those systems are all very different. You have to agree on how to name the objectives in the system, on the interfaces, and we also work on the standardization of that. So let me finalize with the announcement of our last external stakeholder forum. That's a project conference of the Green Emotion together with 2 other electromobility projects. That will be held end of February in Brussels, and you're all invited to come there and to see our final results on a lot of topics, because we will have 1.5 days to discuss all aspects of electromobility integration. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Heike. Thank you for this accurate analysis of what a city needs for implementing an EV plan. So our last speaker is Laurent. Oh, my French is terrible. I'm sorry, Laurent Vroey. Fix this, please. And he's an expert from GDF SUEZ. So whenever you want, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Okay, so good morning, everyone. I will try to give an overview of a specific way of charging EVs, because EVs are coming. There can be some interest in that. There can also be some difficulties with that. And that was, for a part, already involved in different previous presentations. I will make a focus here on what we call smart charging. Just before, very rapidly, I work at Laborelec, which is a technical competence center of the GDF SUEZ utility group. And we are involved in EV activities for several years now, starting with monitoring of EVs in the area of Brussels and Rotterdam in the Netherlands, with about 100 vehicles in total. Then after looking at the cars, we are a utility, so we are more interested in the energy aspects. So we also look at the charging stations with different development and also test of systems, following of standardization as well. And now, this is the next step after, let's say, the simple charging. We are looking at the smart charging and the energy management that has to be considered when talking about EVs. Now, smart charging, what is it? There are different definitions of smart charging. One of them was proposed by a working group around smart charging that was launched by the CENELEC, so the standardization groups in Europe, in which we participated. And the proposed definition was smart charging is charging of an EV controlled by directional communication. So the communication aspect is really important. Communication between two or more actors with a given objective is to optimize the customer requirements, so it's always needed to satisfy the demand of the customer. But above that, it's to try to follow some other constraints, for example, grid constraints. I will come back on that just after. So to perform some energy management, including, and that's an important point, including the management of renewable energy, because everybody knows that wind and solar are more and more in development. That can have an impact on the EV, and reversely, EV can also have an impact on the use of that energy, that new renewable energy. Now, why considering smart charging, knowing that EV is maybe not that much developed today, it's just growing? Well, actually, you will hear lots of things about EVs in the press. Some say, okay, EV is completely not present. There are almost no cars. That's some version. Another version is EV is booming. Well, let me just give some factual figures. In Norway, that's the best of the class in Europe for the moment, as everybody knows. More than 10% of the cars sold every month since 1 year are EVs. So this means something about the volume and about the potential of EVs already today. It's not just a question of 10 or 20 years. It's already today. Since 2012, there were 2 times more pure EVs sold worldwide every year. That's also an indicator of the growing of EV. And finally, that's an expectation, that's a projection, but several analysts believe that about 7%, sometimes more, sometimes less, but about 7% of the market shares of cars are expected to be EVs in 2020. So EV is a fact. It's not just a good idea. It's working. It's present. Before 2020, it is not expected that EVs will have a big impact on the energy needs in production. But looking at the local level, and that was also what was said before, looking at the local level, there can be some issues for namely the grid operators if the charging of the EVs are not correctly considered. So, energy management of EVs can therefore be interesting and for some actors needed. So for the grid, it's considered as a local need in order to limit the peak to shave the peak, and to have a suitable voltage level at the house level. That's important for the houses. Why? Because if you have too much EVs starting charging at the same time, you can expect lower voltage, having some impacts on the good working of the other elements running in the houses. For example, all the electronic devices and so on. The electrical devices can be impacted by lower voltage than it should be. It can also be an opportunity, the energy management of EVs, for the energy supplier, because you can think of lots of possible services around, namely the billing. You could consider specific tariffs for EV charging depending on the time, the moment when the people charge, depending on the energy provider also. So for the energy supply, it's also an important point. And finally, for the end user, that's maybe the first element actually. For the end user, manage its energy. This means displace in some way the time when the people will charge their car, can help them, for example, when they have their own PV on the roof, to help them using their own energy, being more independent from the grid, for example, or to consume when the energy prices are lower. So economically, this can make sense for the user as well to manage that energy properly. So it is interesting in some words, but is it feasible? That's also a question. During the monitoring that we did of electric vehicles, we saw that there were and that was also what Heike said, there were very much short charges that can therefore be shifted in time without any specific negative impact for the user. So that's an answer to that question, and it is therefore feasible to have that energy management. Now, it's feasible. Is it suitable? I will not enter in all the details because the time is not that I don't have that much time. But there are interesting reasons to smart charge. There are also some limitations. Interest is the fact that it can, I said it can allow to better follow the production of PV and wind, for example. The weaknesses are namely the fact that there is not that much standardization finalized. So this is also something that is developed in several projects, and again within Green Emotion there are some activities on that, but we are still lacking in standardization. Now, just a few indications of what we are doing around smart charging at GDF SUEZ. We are working on pilots at laboratory scale and in a building, one of the buildings of the group, where we have more than 10 charging stations plus the cars, and we try to optimize the way those cars are charged depending on some constraints of the building, such as the energy availability, the PV availability, peak shaving needs, and so on. We also look at the injection to the grid caused by some renewable energy, and in particular we have looked at micro CHP systems. Micro CHP is a system that allows to produce heat and power. The problem of some of those systems is that it has to run on a continuous way, so it will finally on a year basis produce too much energy than what can be used in the house. So actually it is interesting for those productions to combine it with the consumption by the EV. That's what we looked at. And finally, this is a next step after the smart charging. There is also the smart discharging, which means that a car can be able to provide its energy to the grid and work as a battery, a buffer, to allow storing energy, for example, provided by a PV at a given time, and then to use it by the house or by the grid, depending on the configuration. So we are also working on that in Labo and with an external partner. This is a synthesis of what I said. I will not repeat everything, but I think one of the important points is the last one. That is that the cost benefits of smart charging is function of different elements. The ratio between the retail price and the injection price, for example, of energy. The specific tariffs that can be obtained for different times. Time of day dependent tariff, for example. So this is actually related to the countries that have their own tariff specifications. And smart charging is therefore a good thing in several places, maybe not today everywhere. But that's what I try to illustrate it here with the time of market figure. You can see on the vertical axis the way the electricity tariffs can evolve in the future. Actually, the easiest one is a flat tariff. You then have the day and night tariff, which is well known. The time of use, this is like the day and night, but with more blocks per day, with the tariff that is the same each day during some longer periods. The DAP is the day ahead pricing. That's a price that can evolve day after day, but that is known by the user one day before. And the real-time pricing is the same, but known just before it happens. So this is the evolution that is expected. I talk here under the control of Spanish people, but in Spain, as far as I know, there is no time of use development that goes together with a smart meter systems that are now deployed in Spain. And that can be a good reason to add the smart thing to the charging of EVs. So today we have basic charging that is widely available, a limited deployment of smart charging, and under consideration now you have the next step, which is the vehicle to grid, where with several initiatives that are already present in some countries and that will probably go further in the coming years, and especially if the the electricity pricing schemes evolve as we can expect. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Laurent, for your speech. Okay, our speakers have talked about living labs like Barcelona for implementing mobility, innovative solutions for overcoming barriers, projects for implementing public charging, and potential and barriers for smart EV charging from the point of view of an energy utility. So I don't know if we have time for some questions. I don't know if there's someone who wants to ask some question. Questions? No? Okay. So I can see very good, but okay. So if there's no questions, well, I can ask some questions. For example, to the person in charge of the Barcelona City Council. For example, you have explained us all that you have done for implementing these solutions for EV in Barcelona. So what's your expectations in the next years, in the next 5 years? For example, do you think the market will grow and you will see something completely different, or an evolution, able to say, okay, we have, because the last 4 years, for example, has been a huge evolution of this market. So what's your expectation in the next 5 years?
Okay, as I tried to explain in my presentation, we think that the pilot project period and the living life period is already done. and we think that we will live from now and during the next years real business models, profitable solutions around the electric vehicle sector. And we expect also not only electric vehicle technology to be sincerely, we expect a mix of energy of technologies in the mobility, and a smarter mobility, more connected, the different transport systems with the public transport. We expect also to implement, and we are working on them, Heike, to implement a sharing system, an electric car sharing system. But in the case of Barcelona, we have a huge offer of public transport, and a urban sharing system of car system. Maybe it's not necessary to the moment for commuter or for metropolitan level, yes. But to summarize, I think that we expect the increasing a lot in the public transport and in the private users and in the professional sectors also, like freight vehicles, the introduction of electric vehicles.
Okay, perfect. I have some questions considering the Green Motion project. This project comes to the end, so I'd like to know what's the future of this project in the next years, and if considering the experience in different cities and countries, can you give us your vision about the differences between the evolution of the mobility? Is very different, for example, from Spain than the rest of the countries, or considering the cities? I don't know if you can give us a vision.
Well, that's a difficult question to have a vision how it will go on in the different regions of Europe. First, I want to say the Green Motion project will end in February. That's correct, and we will, as I said, present our final results. There will be no real Green Motion 2 or something like that, because we also have the feeling, like Ramón told us, that now we are in the phase of commercialization. So there are a lot of private companies in this in the project, and they want to commercialize their ideas now. So stop research and go for the real mass market. That's the idea behind it, but we all know it will be difficult. And we see a different uptake of electromobility in the different regions of Europe, especially in Norway. It's very successful. I think the most sold car at the moment is the Tesla. Might also have something to do with the average income of the Norwegian people. So there are some countries that have an easier start than others. But in the end, I think the most, as I said, the drivers are the cities, and most pressing, it's for the big cities. Like Madrid or Barcelona and Rome, for example, they really have to do something, and we will see that in all the big cities all over Europe, I'm sure.
Okay, thank you very much, David. You have given us several ideas for implementing solutions, but my question is, do we need money always for implementing good solutions, or is a problem of imagination, or sometimes, I don't know, because for municipalities it's very important to know if they can do something without spending a lot of money. So that's my question.
Yeah, money always helps. It's probably, I'm sure Ramón would back this up. But I don't think we can spend our way to this future. It's not just about throwing money at the problem, especially when you look at the fact that many of the problems are around behavior change and human beings, and that's not really just about sort of, it's not about technology. This is not things that you can buy. And not everything that cities are doing costs money. A great example, I think, is a project that we cite in the casebook, which is happening in the States by the US Department of Energy, their workplace charging challenge. And effectively all they're doing is they've got employers together and they've got them to sign this declaration, and they're working with employers to encourage them to provide electric vehicle recharging for their employees. So this costs governments nothing. They help them to understand the need, they help them to understand their workforce, they have standard tools for understanding that demand. But essentially it's a big sort of publicity promotional thing that is getting people talking about electromobility and getting people talking about that future.
Okay, thank you very much. Laurent, we have in Europe several platforms like Hubjets and so on. in trying to implement interoperability between different companies. Do you think in the near future we will be able to see just one platform able to manage this net of charging points in whole Europe, and a driver from Barcelona will be able to drive to France, to Germany, and so on, considering that the battery gives us enough output. So that's my question. So.
Well, I think it's a good question for Heike.
Yeah. Two, just two. Yeah, you can also answer if you want.
But my vision on that is indeed that it will come. The interoperability is indeed something that is really important, not only for the public charging, and that's the purpose of the Green Emotion project, where people want to be able to charge in public stations everywhere in Europe, but also for within the same country for house charging, for example, with smart possibilities. You also need standardization to help actually people and different operators to be able to communicate properly with the user actually. So this is for sure something that you can't that you need the standardization, and then yes. So the answer is yes. You need it, and I think it will arrive, because there are lots of initiatives around that. The problem sometimes is that you have, for that, two different tracks. You have the official one from the standardization groups that can take some time because of the procedure that is, yes, time consuming. You have in parallel to that some private initiatives, and lots of standards actually are de facto standards in Europe, which is not a problem, because the private initiatives can push the standardization works as well, helping all the things to go faster. So I think that it is needed and it is ongoing. So yes.
Okay. Something to add, Heike?
Yeah, part of your question was about the roaming platforms. Will there be one roaming platform, or will there be none, or a lot of them? And that can answered from what we see now. So I talk about Europe, because Green Emotion is a European project, and in Europe we have an open market. So there is no option to have one marketplace or one roaming platform only. Yeah, we cannot force people to connect to one platform. So what we also work on in Green Emotion is to define the interfaces between different of these ICT roaming platforms. And we already see connections between different platforms, and also the Green Emotion project has connected its own platform to a roaming platform from the Chrome project to test the interface and to work on standardization there. And then we will see with a market evolvement how it will end, because the main problem is that there's not enough market volume to finance different platforms. But as we talk about Europe, that will have to clarify itself.
Okay, so thank you very much. If there are no questions in the room, just to thank you, all of you, for attending this roundtable, and for the speakers for explaining your point of view in terms of the future of the electric vehicle market. So thank you very much to all of you.